Okay. Hello, my name is Matthew Mansell. You are watching um, Voluntary Virtue. Welcome to Divine, or you're watching Divine Anarchy on Voluntary Virtues Network. I am your host. Um, Last week, I did not have a show on. I want to apologize for that to my viewers. If you're viewing now or in the future, the reason being that last week it's my birthday and I had Um, didn't have really anything planned that day, so it was my fault. So I want to apologize for that. Like the week before, this week I will not be continuing with my series God as Enemy of the State. I will be doing that in the future, but keep in mind that on top of that series, this show is also going to be focused on news and interviews as well. So off and on, I will be doing impromptu shows like this, or live shows in which I will be covering newsworthy events, or current news, or interviewing guests. Uh, I plan on having uh, I'm going to see and talk about seeing if I can get Adrian Wiley, or who is running for governor here in the state of Florida. Maybe see if he can come on and do an interview, or Bill Webster, who is running for attorney general, and maybe a few others who may in the future wind up coming on and being a guest. But in this particular show, we will be doing some news. Or I will be covering news events and news stories, particularly as it relates to uh, these past few days. For those who haven't heard, first news story we'll be doing for those who haven't heard, Congressman Justin Amash has um, won his primary seat, or the primary in his first congressional seat in Michigan. He was running against Brian Ellis. He was being backed by the uh, he's a businessman. He's being backed by other businessmen, as well as other establishment Republicans like Karl Rove, and he was even being backed by the Chamber of Commerce. For those who don't know who Congressman Justin Amash is, for some unknown reason, he is a Republican whose philosophy is very classical liberal slash libertarian. He's a libertarian uh, candidate, one of the very few. And unlike Senator Rand Paul, he's very more consistent. But he's also on each social media site. He um, told you how he voted and why he voted for what he voted. The way he voted on every bill that he winds up voting, he has co-authored several times amendments to even specific legislation to rein in the NSA and other programs uh, uh, for um, for civil liberties. Um, that's what he's best known for is his stance on the NSA and his work on reining in that and trying to overturn uh, the Patriot Act. But but anyhow, because of this whole government shutdown that happened last year, and the I think it was last year or the year before that. Anyhow, it, yeah, it was last year. Businessman, and because his refusal to some of his votes, in which he voted no on certain key passages, such as voted no to go to war and or to fund particular war project, and because he voted no on welfare to favorite to certain businesses, uh, Brian Ellis ran against him, um, and made a big smear campaign against him. But anyhow, he won, and Congressman Amash, in his victory speech, practically told Ellis that he needed to apologize to the Amash family, basically because the Amash, one of the Ellis ran a campaign against Amash, in which and calling Amash the Al Qaeda favorite friend and Congress ally. Um, this wasn't very pleasing, considering the fact that Justin Amash is Arab American. That's like not a very good thing to do, not a smart thing to do, or very disrespectful. But anyhow, the Amash was pissed at that, and rightly so, and pointed it out. Uh, so now that we've covered what a politician has done in the past 2 days, he won his primary Saturday. I think he still has to run in November. He still has to defeat a Democrat. Odds are I will predict that he will do that, considering the fact that um, the incumbent generally has an advantage when running for office. And considering Amash is the incumbent in that particular race. So anyhow, moving on, we are now in again and again and again. We're in Iraq. That's right. I thought we left Iraq, right? Back in 2011, remember 2009? We're gonna come in and we're gonna end the war in Iraq. We have to withdraw and end it. And then we officially ended it in 2011, seeking to overstay the deadline that Bush agreed to. Yeah, so we officially left. Now we're back in the year 2014. Not even 3 years, right? But anyhow, this is from the Associated Press. As bombs fall over Iraq, old emotions rise in the U.S. It was supposed to be over, America's war in Iraq. So all the old emotions boiled up anew as Americans absorbed the news of U.S. bombs were again striking targets in the nation where the United States led an invasion in 2003, lost almost 45,000 troops in the fight, destabilized and liberated it, and then left nearly 3 years ago. Left should be in parentheses. We still had people there, contractors in the region or in the country. And interviews across the country from 9/11 Memorial to New York to the Iowa State Fair and in Arizona War Monument. Americans voiced conflicted feelings as the airstrike began Friday, ordered by President Barack Obama, who had fulfilled a campaign promise when he withdrew the last U.S. forces from Iraq in 2011. Supposedly, right? Many supporting the decision to bomb now did so for contrasting reasons. Though the Post said that the U.S. never should have invaded Iraq in the first place, but they also struggled with America's obligation to the ravaged, upended nation, which has endured violence between rival Islamic sects and recently the ruthless onslaught of the militant group called itself the Islamic State. There was one constant across Americans' opinion: nobody could envision a concrete solution to Iraq's problem, and it continues from there. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but yeah, we're back in Iraq. There was a where did it go? Um, oh, there's another story about the same thing, but where President Obama says he basically has an obligation to, um, to no, yeah, I'll continue reading. But anyhow, he saying we have an obligation to protect. He had an obligation to protect Americans who were there and what have you, and he said there was no plan. There's no withdrawal plan. There's no timetable. He said no, we could be there for months. We can't put a timetable on rebuilding Iraq. I'm sorry, Mr. President. Your job is not to rebuild a nation, and you sure as hell aren't going to rebuild it by blowing its smithereens. Your job as the commander in chief, well, is to use the armed services to protect the United States borders and to defend not just the borders of the U.S. and U.S. territories, but U.S. civilians from foreign invasion and foreign attacks. Your job, sir, is not to send troops halfway across the world to blow the shit up out of another country. Even if it's in the name of humanitarian aid. I mean, even if you want to go over there and kill off ISIS and liberate this small town, noble, okay, but it's still not your job. There's maybe a noble cause as it is, but even if we did that, how is it your job to rebuild that country? It isn't. Iraq is not a state of the United States. It is its own country. But there you go. We have with no timetable to withdraw, but we're back in Iraq. The president who swore to get us out of Iraq put us back in it. So it looks like John McCain and the Republicans or the Warhawks in the Republican Party are excited. Or at least they have something to be excited about. And that is that, well, we're over there. We're back in the Middle East. We're back muddling in the affairs of another nation and bombing Iraqis. Not a good thing. And it really showed that I wonder if the anti-war left will ever return. I doubt it. This is the leftist president. They're going to more than likely give this dumbass a pass. But if you're a Democrat and you're watching, if you ever watch the thing and you're a leftist, you really should be ashamed of yourself. You really should be. You're now seeing firsthand that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are the same damn thing. They're the same party. Maybe just slightly different, but they're the same group of people with the same philosophical basis. On to somewhat good, better news. The Egyptian court had dissolved the Muslim Brotherhood Party, which was a radical Islamic political party in the territory, or a political party run by Muslim extremists who won after Mubarak had been overtaken, and then after the Muslim Brotherhood started to make to crack down on Egypt, there was a military overthrow of them. To the court had now just overthrown, disbanded this particular Islamic brother, the party, to that. I guess over the grand scheme of things, actually a good thing. That means that at least one group of wackos won't be in control uh, uh, of an of the evil institution that is known as the Egyptian government. Um, Now, on to other better news is the CNN poll has came out on in, for one day ago, uh, talking about how the trusted government is now at an all-time low. It's just now at the 40th anniversary of Nixon's resignation on August 9th of 1974 was the Watergate scandal. Nixon's resignation uh, from the Watergate scandal. But in this poll, it showed that just 13% of Americans say that the government can be trusted to do what is right always or most of the time. That's pretty damn good. Only 13% say that they can trust the government 100% of the time. That means the majority of the people said, we can't really trust them. 3/4, that's 75%, saying that they can trust the government only some of the time. 1 in 10%, not 1 in 10%, 1 in 10 say that they can never trust the government, or should I say, they can only trust the government 0% of the time. 1 in 10 Americans say that they can't trust the government at all. That's good news. When we get 13% saying they can't trust the state. Sadly, though, that's still too much, too high. But even those who say that they can't trust it 100% of the time, they still buy into the myth that they can trust the government. At least some of the time. They still buying into statism. But at least they're getting there. They're going to, they're waking up to the fact that government is a violent institution that isn't there to serve them, that is there to serve big businesses and politicians, to line the pockets of politicians. The poll goes on, or the survey, hold on, let me see, where's that? Okay. The number who trust the government all or most of the time has sunk so low that it is hard to remember that there was ever a time when Americans routinely trusted the government, CNN poll director Katie Holland said. But polls conducted by the University of Michigan consistently found a majority of Americans in the 1960s and early 1970s saying that the government could be trusted all or most of the time until Watergate. In 1972, 53% said that they trusted the government always or most of the time. By 1974, that figure had plummeted to 36%. And except for a brief period of patriotic sentiment immediately after the 9/11 attack, it had remained under 50% ever since. And here it is, again, that 13% is what it has of today. The more Americans are waking up. But this skepticism doesn't just aim at government, the poll said. not just the White House and the Capitol Hill that they distrust. Only 17% of Americans believe that big businesses can be trusted to do what is right always or most of the time. And here is the sad part. I mean, they have a right to say they shouldn't trust the government. But the sad part is that those who say we can't trust big businesses, they reach the right conclusion. You can't trust big businesses most of the time. They jump and say, therefore, we need to regulate them by big government. They apparently, if you're a leftist and you don't trust big businesses, you're right to not trust big businesses. What you forget, the reason why you can't trust big businesses is because they have a gun at their disposal. Big businesses are in conjunction or supported by and live off the guns of the state. They lobby congressmen to write up legislation to exempt them from particular taxes, which I don't blame them, or to grant them special privileges to write up legislation that will harm their competitors through regulation. Calling for regulation doesn't hurt big businesses; it helps them, and the reason why it helps them is because it makes it harder for smaller businesses to compete with them, and it's also through other forms of government subsidies that big businesses prosper. To do bailout, for example, that you have this problem where business practices or bad business practices are encouraged by the state. If you really are against big businesses, you should also be against big government, because it is big government that creates an environment where big businesses do bad things. And without it, they have they have no choice but to please the consumer. That's you and I. Because otherwise, if they don't please the consumer by offering a good or service at a reasonable cost, they'll go out of business. And now, the Florida Obamacare premium, and if you remember back in when Congress was voting on Obamacare, and Miss Nancy Pelosi said, "Well, we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it and what's going to happen." Republicans are saying, "Look, if we pass this idiotic law, premiums are going to be raised," and Democrats saying, "No, if we pass this damn thing, more people will be able to afford." We call it the Affordable Care Act. Well, the numbers are coming in, and here in the state of Florida, according to the Miami Herald, those who buy healthcare in 2015 are going to see their premiums go up. It's going to go by an average increase. The premium will go up by 13.2% monthly. The monthly premium to go up by 13.2%. And this is unveiled Monday by the State Office of Insurance Regulation, and it affects every single one of the Obamacare Act compliant health plan on the individual market. And it doesn't matter whether it's being sold through the federally run exchange or not. Whether any plan that is compliant with Obamacare, compliant with the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, will be affected by this. So as of 2015, premiums are going to up by an average of 13.2%. And you had companies that came on the market and what have you, of 11 returning plans 8 found an average rate of increases ranging from 11 to 23%, and 3 found a rate decreases ranging from 5 to 12%. So even the decreases that we do have are minimal. So here again, the conservative, and libertarians who criticize this bill have been found correct. Here in at least here in the state of Florida. It's 9:25. Interesting. Good. And finally, to return to a more positive, in on a positive note, in the area of science, there has been some advancement. Now, we all know that the state has been using facial recognition software for U.S. civilians. Well, in Los Angeles, California, those who have lost dogs, particularly in San Diego County, don't have to worry. That they have a new avenue, a new means by which to get in touch with their lost animals, and that is through a app that is that can be downloaded at findingriver.com, in which this site and this app it uses built technology built by university researchers, which is face recognition technology. A woman who's been reconnected with their a family has been reconnected with their dog. Dog made this already. Basically, how it worked with the eyes and the distinctive facial mark of the dog, with images uploaded by researchers searching for lost pets. Eyes and noses are important areas that differentiate pooches, including eye size and their position near the snout. They're seeking to expand the database to other counties and other rescuers and veterinarian groups and other animal shelters to expand the database. So there's great news. We actually use facial recognition software to a good purpose. And this can be provided here on the market, where it's being used to rescue and look for lost dogs. So we don't just have to rely on posters and whether or not people can accurately identify one dog or another. We now have facial recognition software to help us with that. So the future of humanity. Sometimes it looks not so bright. Other times, like this, it looks bright. Keep in mind, not everything doom and gloom. Not everything bad. It's also bright. The future is gonna look good. We just have to be vigilant, and we have to remind ourselves to not get bogged down into all the negativity all the time, and sometimes try to find the good. With that being said, thank you for watching Divine Anarchy. I am your host, Matthew Mansell. This is you can watch this show every Saturday at 10 to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time here on Voluntary Virtues Network. I encourage you to live in peace and in prosperity and in divine anarchy. May God bless. Shalom, shalom.